Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Macon Podcast. I'm Sean Wakimbale, your host. This is an independent platform that allows Nigerians from all walks of life to be able to express themselves in some of the truth inside of them for the world to know. And of course, this is independent of my weekly and weekend shows on Channels Television. That is Politics Today and Sunday Politics. This is targeted for young Nigerians to be able to glean from what is going on in policy and governance and politics in Nigeria for them to take the right decision. Welcome to this episode, everyone. Today on this Macon Podcast, I will be speaking with a former chairman of the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property, SPIP. That was in the early days of the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Chief Okoi, Obono-Obla, is a lawyer and joins us live here in our podcast studio. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
I remember this is prompted from our conversation on Politics Today on Channels Television about some of the revelations you have been talking about, and you said a lot has been happening. And perhaps one thing that is intriguing is the fact that you worked under a government that came on a pivotal agenda of fighting corruption. And we thought that the Buhari government was very serious and had the tenacity to fight corruption. You were the chair of that committee to recover those stolen properties and assets. But what happened?
Well, that is a surprise. It's unfathomable. I personally supported the political aspirations of General Muhammadu Buhari because I thought, having fought corruption squarely when he was military head of state from 31st of December 1983 to 26th of August 1985, that he is the person to address the problem of corruption in Nigeria, which is one of the problems why the country is backward, one of the problems why the country has not realized its potentials. Let me give an example. In the 1960, when we attained independence, Nigeria was looked upon, or there were projections that potentially Nigeria will emerge one of the world powers in about 30 years. Okay, and Nigeria was ahead of Indonesia, Brazil, Taiwan, Singapore. Okay, in economic projections. So surprisingly, today, Nigeria is almost 100 years behind these countries, and it's a problem of corruption. So I supported Buhari throughout his political trajectory from 2002 to 2015, when he contested and became president. And we thought he was going to fight corruption because of his reputation, which he earned when he was military head of state. Yes, and a lot of former governors, ministers were sentenced to prison. Long-term
sentence. And Buhari has been criticized because he was as a dictator without a heart. Because, in his regime, people were sentenced to almost 80 years of jail term.
Yes.
And there are those who believe that how on earth would anyone do that?
Well, I don't think it is. I'm not advocating for a return into military dictatorship where laws were made by decrees. Okay, we are now in a civilian era, but I thought since one of the decrees that he used to fight corruption was the Public Officers Recovery Special Provisions Act 2004. That act was promulgated in 1985. All those who were sentenced used the chairman or the panel. They were divided into panels, and all the prison sentences were imposed by those panels. So the law is there, and unfortunately for the country, the law was not repealed, because when we were changing from military dictatorship to civilian democratic constitutional rule, all the laws, some of the laws that were enacted by the military dictatorship were repealed. That one was not repealed. And it still today in the corpus of Nigerian laws.
And those who will say that looks like an anomaly, because such a draconian law, which created a quasi-judicial body, will met out such a punishment so heavy on anyone out of the courtroom.
Well, I don't see the law as draconian. Because
but a quasi-judicial body that has such a power.
I was not giving those powers. That aspect, because there were other laws that they were using apart from that one that gives them the power to sentence. That one was not there in the law that is in force currently. But the law is very simple. If you have property above 100,000 naira.
At the time, in 1985.
Yes, in 1985. So maybe about 10 million naira, it could be 50 million naira. If you have property above that, then you have to, the onus is on you to explain the source of your wealth.
And there are lawmakers in Nigeria who are already proposing such laws.
Exactly.
Such
that law is under the Proceeds of Crime Act of UK. Then the Proceeds of Crime of UK empowers the Minister for Justice in the UK to make regulations. So that regulation was made in 2017. And I even used that regulation to cause the investigation of certain politically exposed people who have property more than £50,000. Because under that regulation, if you have a property in London or in UK over £50,000, then you have to explain where you got the money from to acquire that property.
You were very powerful. You were seen to be very close. You were one of the closest allies to the president, and you were seen as very powerful. Even when the ministers were not yet composed, even afterwards, there are those who believe that the name of Obono-Obla sent jitters to, and there are those who believe that you were some kind of kingmaker within the CPC arm of the APC at the time, brought in by the President Buhari at the time, to chase after political opponent.
No.
That's how you were perceived at the time.
I'm not as I wasn't as powerful as you want Nigerians to believe. But I have been there in the sense that I contested the governorship elections in Cross River State in 2003 under the platform of the National Conscience Party. I was a fan of Gani Fawemi, SAN, and I had to contest, under his platform. And I remember in 2003, there was this, agitation by the opposition that the 2003 general elections would be rigged, that the opposition should boycott the elections. So I got in touch with Gani Fawemi, and he said, no, that we shouldn't boycott the elections. We should support, General Muhammadu Buhari's party, ANPP, then. So from then, I became National Legal Advisor when the party Congress for Progressive Change was founded. It was founded by elements of the ANPP who were very close to General Buhari.
Who were aggrieved and moved out of the ANPP.
Because they believed that the ANPP, as constituted then, would not give nomination to President Buhari.
And they believed that they were sold out at the time.
Yes, exactly. There were these allegations that some of the ANPP leadership had sold out. You remember, he went to court after the 2007 election with his running mate, Chief Edwin Mozeke. Yeah. And while the matter was pending, the party withdrew from the case. And also his running mate withdrew.
And he felt very aggrieved. He thought that they left him in the rain.
Yes.
But I mean, the point
so his supporters envisioned that he may likely not be given ticket under the platform of ANPP. So we left. So I became a National Legal Advisor from 2008 when it was in a political association. And as one of the requirements of registration by INEC, they say, okay, look for somebody from South-South. I'm from the South-South. So the late Obong of Calabar, Basi Kubasi, he was elected Obong of Calabar, but there were some legal wrangling. So he stepped down. He was living in Abuja, and he was, Buba Galadima met him and said, look, give us somebody from your region And
who took over from you as the national legal advisor?
Malami, Abubakar Malami, yes, here.
You're a very good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will come to that in a moment. Then you were suspended. I mean, am I right to say that you were very close to President Buhari?
Well, I was close because the positions I occupied in CPC. I have told you I was national legal advisor, the pioneer national legal advisor, from 2009 to December 2010. Then the position of national legal advisor was taken away from South-South geopolitical zone and given to North-West geopolitical zone. So I now contested on the first national convention of CPC that took place in January 4th to 6th January 2011. I contested and became National Deputy Secretary. And then in 2013, January 15th, General Muhammadu Buhari appointed me the Secretary and stroke member of the CPC Merger Committee to discuss
midwife
to discuss the formation of a pan-Nigerian party with the party of the current president,
ACN at the time.
And he gave us instructions that we should have nothing to do with AMPP. So, but on the first meeting of our delegation, the CPC delegation and ACN delegation, in the house of Chief Tom Ikimi, who was the chairman of ACN Media Committee, the AMPP ACN delegation, surprisingly, told us if we do not agree for AMPP to join the media talk, they will walk out. They will not have anything to discuss with us. So we had to ask for a break of 1 hour. Our chairman, Senator Mohammed Gadi, he used to be the deputy governor of Bauchi State, but he has passed away. He called us out, and then we had a discussion for 45 minutes. And we said, look, we know the kind of person General Buhari is. We don't need to go to him and tell him what the ACN delegation has told us to do. We agreed that...
Without his consent?
Yes.
Without Buhari's consent?
Exactly. We agreed that we should go ahead and...
Wasn't he angry when he eventually learned of that?
Well, thereafter, he led a delegation to Kaduna State, or Kaduna, to see General Buhari and informed him. And surprisingly, he didn't say anything. He accepted. That is how we started the discussion that led to the formation of All Progressive Congress, APC.
You were suspended from that role as the chairman of the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for the recovery of public property in August of 2019.
Yes, I was.
And you have been saying that was a witch hunt.
Well, I think so, because I think I did nothing. They made a lot of allegations, and I denied those allegations. And they were investigated. They couldn't establish, that anybody gave me money or acquired property, or I did something wrong,
There were 10-count charge against you.
No, they didn't give me 10-count charge.
You were accused of fraud. You were accused of forgery.
Well, they allege that I forged my school cert, but what has that got to do with what the work I was doing?
Did you forge your school cert?
Nothing like that.
Do you have a school certificate?
I have. Otherwise, I wouldn't have attended the university.
Did you win that case, though?
Pardon?
Did you win the case?
Well, the case was thrown out, twice. So that is it.
So you're off the hook.
They went to the Court of Appeal and they lost. So that is it.
So you're off the hook.
I am.
The money that they say you stole, where are they?
Where's the evidence?
No, but I'm asking that they were the one who alleged that you stole money.
A pathological lie.
And they said you use your office also to side fund money.
Where is the money? I have all my accounts. All my accounts were investigated, and they found nothing. Not even there was no money. I'm not. Look, I am not somebody who wants to acquire money. I am not. I am satisfied with what I have.
You don't like money.
I declared my assets in 2016. when I was appointed SA to the president. And in 2019, when that tenure ended, I also declared my assets. Everything I declared in my assets is what I had when I was a young lawyer. I practiced law in Calabar from 1992 to 2008. Then I left Calabar to practice law in Abuja. Everything I have, I can tell you the number of houses I have. I have a house in my village, Gap in Cross River State, which I built in 2003. I have a second house in Gap, which I built in 2011. Then when I came to Abuja, I bought land in a suburb of Abuja, with my wife. My wife is also a lawyer. We bought land and built a building, and that house was completed before I went into government. Then I have a property in Calabar too that I acquired in 2003 from my law practice. So I have not added anything to today from what I had and what I declared in, that these are my assets when I joined government.
You were accused also of using your office for personal gains.
In what way? Nobody proved that. It was investigated and nobody proved. Look, as a matter of fact, when the CPC interrogators were interrogating me, one of them said, look, Mr. Obla, we have not seen that you have not seen a Nigerian like you. That despite the fact that you were not given structures to do this work, you have courageously done this work very well. But what happened to you was because you stepped on toes. One of the CPC interrogators said that to me before my lawyer in the interrogation room. So if you say I did that, what is the evidence? When there is no money in my account, I can mention to you my account, and you can go to my accounts. I have accounts in Eco Bank. I had account Access Bank, Zenith Bank. You can go to all these banks and look at, those accounts and see what came into those accounts from April or so, 2016, until when I left government in 2019.
There were
if anybody has stolen money, it's very easy to know.
Yeah, because
I live in a rented apartment in Abuja.
Why would anybody witch hunt you for someone who...
I was courageous, uncompromisingly courageous.
What, you were supposed to be working under the Minister of Justice?
I wasn't supposed to be working under the Minister of Justice. But Minister of Justice wanted to supervise all the anti-corruption agencies to be under his thumb and feet. And my offense was that I said, no, under this law, I report only to Mr. President. And I said it even before I left office. I report to only Mr. President under this law.
So it was your confrontation to Mr. Malami?
No, we didn't have any confrontation.
But you had said to him, and you have said that you will only report to the president, according to law that you quoted.
I said so openly, and the media reported me that I said I only report to Mr. President.
Was that the genesis of your problem?
And also...
Was that the genesis?
Let me come.
Okay.
Also, when they were trying to... There was a case I was investigating in National Health Insurance. When President Buhari went to UK and there was a acting president, there was removal of about 10 billion naira from the National Health Insurance account. And under the law that they established that National Health Insurance scheme, nobody is supposed to move any money from that account. So one of the cases I was investigating, when I started the investigation, I had phone calls. One of them was one man who says he was chief dictator to Mr. President. And he told me, why are you investigating that matter? This matter had been investigated and concluded. The president is not happy with you. So, and he asked me to give him all the documents I have. Initially, I was taken aback and afraid. So I discussed with my wife, and my wife to say, look, from the way this man is talking, I don't think this man is the chief dictator, Mr. President. So I now call one of my aides, who is from Adamawa State. He was in the military police, so he is familiar with those in the security apparatuses. So you say, no, give me the number that has been calling you. And I gave the number. And after about 1 hour, he called me to say that this is not Mr. President's chief detail. But later on, I received a query from the villa asking me who permitted me, who mandated me to, do that investigation. And that's a query. And I replied that under the law setting up this panel, I do not require mandate. Because if you are asking me to wait for mandate, where will I get the mandate from? If a matter is reported to me, you want me to get mandate before I will.
This was still when the vice president was acting.
Yeah, yes.
The president hasn't returned back to the country.
Exactly.
This was when the president was away for about 8 months or thereabout.
Yeah, the president came back. The president
briefly
came back, short period before this incident, So I said, look, I am on this office I am holding. I report to the commander-in-chief. I don't report to any other authority. And that I don't need mandate of anybody to do investigation. So that is, I believe, one of the reasons, because the people responsible thought I was, stubborn. I was, rude, because of the broad manner I replied the query that was issued to me. Again. So that is it. So another issues, which I can, if you want me to, I will enumerate.
Please go ahead.
Yes. For instance, one of the cases I investigated was a report by retired Major General Adamu Yusuf. He wrote a petition to my office saying that he was a whistleblower to a case that led to the recovery of 20 billion US dollars and 850 million gold bars, gold bars, from the house of a minister in Jonathan's government. Okay? That the agreement he had with the Abakari was that after the recovery, he was going to have a commission. But that after the operation, the money was recovered. The money was not declared to the government. The gold bars were not declared. Only 350 million gold bars out of 850 million gold bars. So he was angry that I should investigate. So my director of operation was an assistant commissioner of police. He led the investigation, interviewed almost 7 persons, including the controversial Shuma Zerebe from Anambra State, and some other about 7 people, and they all, testified to the effect that money was recovered, that they were there in the house when the government team came to recover that money.
Which agency of government took?
I think it was DSS.
DSS, yes, took, and who had the custody of the gold bars and the monies?
Well, I wouldn't know, but he alleged that his commission was not paid, that the people who went to recover the money should be in custody of the money, that he believed that the money was not declared to government, or they under-declared. They didn't declare the $2 billion, but they declared 450 million worth of gold bars. So we investigated, and I saw that, look, this thing is very messy. I can't go to the villa and arrest the Abakari, because every finger was pointing at him.
The former chief of staff.
Exactly. So I said, okay, let me do a memo. There was a time I wanted to resign. I was fed up. The government didn't support me. I had made a lot of enemies within government.
You found a lot of corruption.
Exactly. That it was clear that they didn't want me, because maybe they made a mistake appointing somebody like me. So I told my friend, Osito Okechukwu, he used to be the DG of Voice of America.
Voice of
Nigeria, because I knew him from CPC days. I said, look, I want to leave this job. So he said, no, Obla, the president will be embarrassed. I said, I can't see the president. I don't have access to him. He said, okay, let me try. And he arranged, and the president invited me. August 2018. And when I came, only 2 of us in his office. And I briefed him on what I have done. And I also, briefed him on the challenges. And he asked me, who are those people trying to stop me from doing our work. I mentioned some few people, and
who were the people you mentioned?
Well, I mentioned some people in the presidency, and including the incident I told you about, where I was giving a query.
So, you were queried by the former vice president.
Yes,
when he was acting president.
Yes,
the deputy. Okay, it came from the office of the deputy chief of staff.
The deputy chief of staff is the chief of staff to the vice president.
Yes. I just want Nigerians to be clear. Yes. So, and it pointed to the fact that there are those who are in the presidency, in the villa, who are stopping you from doing your job.
I mentioned that. I mentioned also, some other people or institutions that they were not cooperating with me, that I wasn't giving money, even the seed money that
to run your panel.
The seed money was domiciled in the office of the permanent secretary in charge of security in the office of the SGF. Okay, that was 150 million naira. I never saw the money.
How did you run your office?
Well, I don't know, because God's ebullience. I had police officers initially that were sent to me. I was asked to apply, and they were assigned to my office. And also had some investigators from my CPC.
You had an Ibrahim working with you in your panel.
Ibrahim Aliu.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is the man whom you were co-accused of allegedly that you were using his account to collect money from those whom you were chasing after.
He was also investigated, and nothing was established.
There were money that was said to have been traced to his account.
These are all street talks, or giving a dog a bad name. He was also investigated, and nothing like that was found. Nothing.
But were you baffled or were you puzzled that a government that said it wanted to fight corruption, there were deep corruption also in that government?
I was disappointed, or even the way they turned against me for nothing. I used to say that they ought to have commended me, but my effort was trivialized. They turned around to make allegations against me. I was quite surprised and disappointed.
In that August of 2018, that was the first time of sitting with the president to discuss your panel work.
Yes. It was the first time.
Did he give you any kind of backing that he was ready to fight corruption?
He said, look, go and do your work. Go and do your work.
But
and I was telling you the story about the $2 billion.
Yeah, $2 billion missing, and the gold bar.
After I finished with Mr. President, I believe some people were aware that I was Mr. President. I saw some people, when I was leaving the president's office, I saw Malami. He was, waiting on the door to go and see Mr. President. And then when I was leaving, the ADC called me and said, look, Mr. Obla, you are doing a good job, but the system is bad. I believe that any mail you send to Mr. President will be intercepted. So whenever you are sending any mail, please pass it through my office. I will give it to Mr. President. So because of that, I had written 2 memos. One was about CBN.
What happened with CBN?
There was this issue of stamp duties. And some people have written, School of Banking Honors. It's an NGO in the banking sector. They had written a petition saying that the banks have recovered over 38 trillion over the years from stamp duties, and that this money had not been remitted. Okay? And they mentioned the former acting governor of the central bank. When Emefiele was removed, an acting governor was appointed. That man was the chairman or the MD, the managing director of, they call it Nigerian something banking system. So that is a firm established by bankers in Nigeria, So they mentioned him. And shortly after that, there was this announcement that he has been appointed deputy governor of the central bank. So I wrote a memo to informing President Buhari that how can you appoint as deputy governor somebody who we are investigating concerning stamp duties? So those were the two memos I gave to ADC. So he kept it for 1 month. One evening, he called me. He said, Mr. Obla, please, I want to see you. So I went to the villa, and he handed over those two memos to me and said, oh, it's too hot. It's too hot. Go and investigate other cases. Leave this. So I left.
Were you disappointed then?
I was. I thought I had found somebody who could help
ally.
me. You know, because I know I was in trouble. Because there was so much pressure on me. You know, so and things were not going on well, and I didn't have help from the government that appointed me. They had not given me what I had asked for. So I was emboldened when the president told me, "Okay, go and do your work." But on January 2019, I was in Calabar. I went because the president was coming to Calabar to campaign. My PA called me from my office in Abuja to say that there was a letter from the vice president's office saying that the panel should be suspended. Of course, I walked to the same ADC because they sent that mail, the letter, you know, through my WhatsApp and say, oh, this is what I have received. And say, oh, go and do your work. Of course, I didn't comply with the letter. I continued doing my work until August when I was suspended.
So, and you found out what the president said at your suspension, and the president had said that, well, your work should stop for the recovery of the public property, and you were being accused of falsification of records and financial impropriety, and the fact that how you got admission to study law in the University of Jos was questionable. Some of your documents that you use in getting admission was questionable, and also that going forward, that your role will be merged and taking over. The report should be sent to the ICPC, and the president should get the report. That was the outcome.
No, where you say the letter, according to the letter doesn't contain what you have read out. If they say that they accused me of falsification of official documents, I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know the documents they were talking about. So the president asks that I should be investigated
and prosecuted.
Well, I don't know if it's
that letter read so. Yeah.
Where? The
letter on the 17th of September 2019, the president did not only disband the SPIP, that's the panel.
Is that the letter? Are you reading the letter?
Yeah, no. I'm reading the content of the letter.
I have the letter.
And order the ICP to conclude the investigation which you were carrying, and investigate you and send a final report to him and prosecute you for any wrongdoing.
Well, the letter I got, I have not been given a copy till today. It was what I read in the media, and later on, one of my friends sent a letter to me after 2 years that this is my letter of suspension. My letter of suspension says I have been suspended for financial impropriety, the falsification of official documents. So that is it.
The man who appointed you, whom you met, and when you were suspended, and at the end of the day, when you were let go by the courts, how did you feel that you thought that you wanted to just fight corruption? And that's your aim, right? Although some people believe that you were acting outside the dictate of your office.
Well, what is the evidence? It's one thing
that you're supposed to recover public property and not chase after people's money.
I was not chasing chasing after anybody's money.
You were witch hunting. And your political party was also worried that they were losing political mileage because of what they tag political witch hunt using Obono-Obla's panel.
You know, I don't know about that. I didn't witch hunt anybody. Look, if you know my background, I'm a civil rights lawyer. You know, I did the human rights work throughout, from 1992 when I started my career until when I went into government. So I was also in the pro-democracy movement that I advocated for the reform.
So you don't think that something politically went wrong in the pursuit of your office?
I couldn't have, which hunted anybody.
But your political party was uncomfortable.
Well, maybe they were because they were uncomfortable because of the uncompromising work, the courage, which I was doing my work.
They said you were stepping on toes.
Well, why can't you step on toes? If you are asked to be an investigator, would you step on toes?
Those were the concern of your political. I'm just putting it to you.
Do you need to be selective? So you can see that all of these things, there's something wrong, fishy. You have asked me to be an investigator, and they told me this is a large-dished effort against corruption. They told me, they said, oh, you're not a bright person. This is a right last-dish effort against corruption. So after you appoint me and I commence my investigation, you begin to say that I'm witch hunting people. How can I witch hunt people? I don't have the apparatus to witch hunt anybody using the law. I didn't go outside the law.
They said you were threatening people, taking over their houses, taking over their properties. There were a lot of buildings in Abuja that were under the threat of being taken over by your panel. And that those who are politically exposed who were not finding this funny.
There's no way I will just go up against anybody if there's no report.
Is it fair to blame you're saying in a lot of places where you blame the former Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, of being behind? You said he was one of those who orchestrated your removal.
With his mouth.
Is it fair to have accused him?
Yes, because he was so happy with what I was doing.
How do you mean? Did he say that to you?
He told my wife that I'm not a team player, that I am measuring up to him. If somebody says you are measuring up to me, what will be your inference?
He told your wife that?
Yes, my wife. He told my wife. He knows my wife very well because my wife was a member of the CPC legal team when CPC challenged the election of Jonathan. And I was running his office in Abuja, for almost 5 years.
Mr. Malami's office?
Yes, number 15.
So you were very close to him?
Number 15, Gimbia. When we finished the major talks, my wife had come from Calabar, and I said, look, I don't want to be in the same office with my wife. Let me, can I manage your office? He said, yes, go ahead. So I was there for 5 years. So he told my wife I'm not a team player that was measuring up to him. He even told my wife that I petitioned him, which I was very surprising. What was the petition? After I was appointed essay to the president under the office of the Attorney General. That was in 2016.
For public prosecution, isn't it?
Yes, prosecution, essay prosecution. So that was what he wanted. He made a letter to the president that he wants to appoint me essay on prosecution. I was there for almost from November 2015 to April 2016. So rather than the president giving the approval, the president, through the SGF, approved my appointment as Senior Special Assistant to the President on Prosecution, Office of the Attorney General. So later on, government wanted to, be very robust about prosecution of corruption cases. So a national prosecution committee was set up that all the prosecution of all corruption cases will be handled by that committee, working together with other anti-corruption agencies. So I was a member. But surprisingly, the Attorney General went ahead and appointed a secretary outside me. So I did a memo to him. Say, sir, I'm the secretary, I'm the essay on prosecution. And I think I should be the secretary of that committee so that there will be better coordination. So that was a memo. He now alleged to my wife and told my wife that I petitioned him. So he was never happy with me from that 2016 to when I left office. He was never happy with me.
So would you say that it was behind your removal or suspension?
He was Attorney General. He has said I was not a team player, that I was measuring up to him. So he may be one of the people that pushed my removal. He was powerful. He told my wife too, he was also that doesn't Obla know that I'm powerful in this government, that this is our government. He said that to my wife.
That's Mr. Malami.
My wife is a 30-year-old lawyer. She understands English very well. He said that my wife went with somebody. Also, one of our colleagues, Chidi Nwanu, is a Lagos-based lawyer. He's a maritime lawyer. He told...
So Mr. Malami told your wife
yes,
that he's a very powerful man.
Said, doesn't Obla know that I'm a very powerful figure in this government, that this is our government? He said that to my wife. And because of that, my wife didn't say anything. My wife left in annoyance and said, this man doesn't like you. This is what he said before me.
Do you have a feeling that, because you said corruption was fighting back?
Yes.
Because that's what you feel.
Yes.
And if you say Mr. Malami was the one who was behind your removal, could it be because of corruption?
Well, all those allegations, all those phantom allegations they made against me, that I was witch hunting people, that I became so powerful. He addressed a press conference after I was removed. He said, I investigated over 500 cases, but I didn't have the mandate. So what's the meaning of that? 500 cases. I should be commended. All those cases were generated by me. When I took over, nothing was given to me. Only 2 cases were given to me. One was against the investigation of the channel, Calabar Channel. There was supposed to be dredging of the Calabar Channel, that was awarded by MPA to a company that did not, execute the job. That was only 2 cases, 2 files that were given to me. And I was able to generate 500 cases. And that now Malami was saying that I didn't have mandate to investigate those cases.
I mean, if you look at it, would you say Mr. Malami was corrupt?
Well, I don't want to make any allegation again of corruption.
Because, you have inferred that corruption pulled you out or got you out of your office. Well, and you said Mr. Malami was behind it.
No, I said all the problems I had, he was behind. Because Attorney General, the president cannot remove me without, his input.
What about all of the recoveries that no one could trace?
Well, I left office. So
if you worked for a government that said it wanted to fight corruption, did you think that the Buhari government really fought corruption?
Well, where are we? Let's use the Transparency International, the index, their perception about corruption in Nigeria. As it come down from 2015 to, when he left, 2023, as it come down, we were not rated highly. We have always scored very low, even in 2015.
But from what you know about the running of government, would you say that in terms of fighting corruption, Buhari government was a failure?
I would say so. Yes, I think we didn't do well. It didn't do well. When I left, Magun left, and then we didn't hear anything about fighting corruption.
So was it the same fate that befell you that befell Magun?
I think so, because they at AG wanted people who are pliant characters. Even one of his close associates, I wouldn't mention his name. He said, Obla, you and Magun are very stubborn. He said so. Yeah.
So it's stubbornness that got you and Ibrahim Magun out of office?
One of the allegations was subordination. They accused me of being, somebody said that.
But with the benefit of hindsight, maybe you wouldn't have been, maybe you could have been less stubborn and get the right result, or maybe less insubordinate.
There is no how, Shehu, that you can fight corruption if you don't have a large heart, if you are not ready to take risk, if you are not courageous, if you are not stubborn, if you are not bold. Yes.
Was your life under threat when you were doing this job?
Well, it was. For instance, even when they removed me, I was not dismissed. I was suspended. If somebody is under suspension, somebody, a public office holder is under suspension, it means technically he is still holding that position. He's only suspended, from doing his work until a certain time. Until I left office, until they left office, they never told me whether my suspension has been lifted or it has not been lifted. It was left in the hanging. So,
how bad is corruption in the Nigerian government or in the Nigerian system?
Some of the things I recovered were returned back to, the people will recover those things from. For instance, there was this case of somebody will recover 80 S-Class Mercedes-Benz car, brand new, houses, farms, motorcycles, and so forth, in a house in Jabi. Under information, we got intelligence, and we went there. We saw all those things. I wrote to the customs, the DG of customs, do these people pay custom duties on these vehicles? 80 brand new S-Class, armored plated. The CG of customs said no, they didn't pay. I wrote to Federal Inland Revenue Service. Did these people pay tax? If you are importing, if you have this kind of vehicles, if you have money to buy this kind of vehicles, you should pay enormous tax to the Nigerian government. They said no, they don't have any record of them paying tax. So we went to court. We got an order of official, and then the court asked us to, we should take custody of those things. It's interim for official pending the hearing of the case. So I did it. I did a memo to the Attorney General to brief him of what we were doing. But later on, the Attorney General said that all the cases are investigated. They never mandated me. One of them was, came through Panama Papers. You know about the Panama Papers? Mm-hmm. A Nigerian senator, former military governor, was mentioned that he has properties in offshore islands. Since I didn't have the structures to investigate this issue, which is overseas, I went to the DG, NIA, said, look, please, let us work together to do this investigation. And they did the investigation. The report was sent to me. I sent one to the president, and I sent one to the Attorney General, that this man has over 200 million pounds in the offshore islands.
A former governor, a sitting senator.
He's no longer in the Senate.
No, at the time.
At that time, he was a sitting senator. But he had been president of the Nigerian Senate.
But nothing happened. Not
till today. What of the $69 billion? I got a letter, I didn't prompt them, from an American law firm saying that they have assets or access to a bank account in Texas that has over $69 billion US, proceeds from stolen crude oil. And the 9 billion, 69, the proceeds from the crude oil is 60 billion. The 9 billion is, they mentioned the name, Patrick Aziza, who was National Security Advisor. And I thought it was beyond me, so I wrote to the president that this is what this firm has, alleged. Yes, that they are asking for money, that if we make some payment available, that they will give us the bank, not the holders of the account number, the bank accounts, and so forth and so on. So I went to the president and said, approve, so that we can recover this money. 69 billion, it's a lot of money. Of course, nothing came out of it.
Up to now.
I also did a letter to Attorney General to brief him. But do you know what he said? The day he saw my wife, he laughed in a very sarcastic manner. I think Obono-Obla claimed that he would recover 69 billion US, as he recovered the money. He was being sarcastic. How would I recover the money when you didn't act as the Attorney General? Somebody has said, look, we have $69 billion of Nigerian money in a bank account in America.
And the government did not take action.
Nothing. Look, it's in the media. If you look at Punch published the story. Punch published this story. Even when Buhari was in office, he did. I think if I would download it and send it to you, nothing was done.
It feels like the government you work for was a failure in that respect.
I have said so, that I was disappointed, because I believe so much in the former president, and I worked passionately for him.
But would you attribute the underdevelopment of our country today to corruption?
Why not? Look, if you can, somebody can take $69 billion out of Nigeria. If we have $69 billion, our universities will change, our polytechnics, our secondary schools, we'll have water, and this is just a tip. That is just a tip of the iceberg.
There are so much more.
How
can we fight this corruption you are talking about?
If there is the will, political will on the part of government, political will, and then appointing very courageous people, and then the government also protecting these people, because if you fight corruption will hit back. Not only in Nigeria, this famous professor from Kenya, also all our executive chairmen, all the executive chairmen of AFCC have been removed in controversial circumstances, right from Ribadu to 2023. So if your government interferes with the work of anti-corruption agencies, how are they going to fight corruption? They will not be emboldened to fight corruption. So you have to protect them, give them all the necessary assistance, cooperation.
I mean, if this government looked very deeply into the Buhari government, would they find cans of worms?
Well, I don't know. It is left for this government to do that.
Considering what they found what they are finding out in the investigation and prosecution of the former CBN governor. Well, did you have an inkling that those kind of things were happening in the CBN?
I have mentioned to you one incident where I wanted to block somebody who was coming to be deputy governor of the central bank because he was mentioned as one of the people involved in the 38 trillion naira that commercial
stamp duties.
Yes, have recovered from stamp duties, which they refused to remit to the Nigerian government. I don't know if they have seen that money has been remitted.
So you had a feeling that CBN is going to be a place of mess.
There was also one other incident. This case was reported by Femi Falana, SAN. He wrote a petition saying that $7 billion US dollars that Professor Soludo, when he was governor of Central Bank, gave out as bailout funds to enable banks recapitalize, that money has not been returned. He said in that petition that it was not a dash, that it was a loan.
And up to now it has not been recovered.
So when we started investigation, one of the persons we invited was Dr. Samusuddin Suman. He was Minister for Finance under Yar'Adua's government. And the Minister of Finance is the chairman of the board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And he said that they wrote off that money, $7 billion of public money was written off.
For some Nigerians.
Exactly.
For some personal
business
interest.
These banks doesn't belong to all of us, just a group of private people. So you are taking $7 million and dashing people.
If the Tinubu government...
Let me come again.
Yeah.
Yes, he also reported a case, Femi Falana too, against Mobile.
Oil complaint.
Yes. Femi said in his petition written that when Jonathan was president, Mobile purchased an oil block for $2.5 billion. That Mobile only paid $600 million. So we investigated and we established that fact because we confronted DPR. DPR claimed that they don't have records. NNPC couldn't give us records of that transaction. We asked Mobile, if you are saying that you pay $2.5 billion rather than $600 billion admitted by government, where is your receipt? Where is the receipt that was issued to you when you paid for this oil block? Mobile couldn't do that. They were trying to compromise me. Their vice executive chairman visited me and and then when he saw that I was not willing to play ball, he left. Shortly after that, I left government. What of the woman that bought a house for 800 billion naira?
800 billion naira?
Yeah, 800.
Or 800 million?
800 million. Under the name of her 8-year son. She was the permanent secretary in Ministry of Defense. And in July, Professor Femi Odekunle called me. Femi Odekunle.
Yeah, he was the executive secretary of the presidential...
No, he was a member.
Oh, yeah.
He was a member. He called me. That
of PACAC.
Yes, I should see him. I didn't know his house. He now gave me an address. So I went. And when I entered his sitting room, he gave me a bottle of cognac and said, Obla, you are too stubborn. You are too radical. The way you are fighting this corruption, you will get into trouble. That woman is friendly with very powerful people in Nigeria, and you are investigating her. You know, he mentioned the husband, who was a minister in Obasanjo's government, that I should go and drop the investigation. I said, Prof, look, the people wrote a petition. If I drop the investigation like that, they will go and say that I have been given bribe. I have been given a bribe. I said, I will only drop the investigation when I see an assets declaration form. And then I requested for assets declaration from Code of Conduct Guru. Then I saw that she didn't declare that property as, you know, when she was appointed permanent secretary. Because the law says if 3 months after your appointment, you have to declare your assets. Then when you are leaving office, you also have to declare office. That is why I was telling you I'm clean. Anybody who has stolen money, anybody who has acquired property, if you look at his assets forms, you will know. You will know.
So that's how that case died.
When 1 week, just after 1 week, I was removed. But they couldn't warn me that the way you are fighting, you are too radical. Obla, why are you too radical? I told him, look, Prof, if you want to fight corruption, you have to be radical.
If this present government under President Tinubu wants to really fight corruption, how do you advise it goes about it?
Insulate EFCC, ICPC from politics and other anti-corruption agencies. Empower them, fund them very well, protect those who are investigators, you know, and also there shouldn't be selective enforcement, you know. So you need a stubborn person. And then if that person is stubborn and steps on toes, the government should protect him. Yeah, because naturally, people will go on vendetta if they feel that you are pursuing them.
Mr. Obla, yes. The things that you have told us today, are you worried? Are you afraid about forces that you
am afraid
that you have claimed against on this podcast?
I am afraid because there is security in the country. But I am also not afraid to die. I am not afraid to die. If in the course of helping the fatherland and I die, so be it. So be it.
If you are called to come and do the same thing you did,
I will not. Because, the excruciating psychological trauma I passed through, I would have died. They would have killed me. You know, I have told you, just after my suspension was pronounced, they withdrew my security. Even the vehicle that was given to me by virtue of my office, Malami sent a team to my house to remove the vehicle. Normally, I'm supposed to be entitled to that vehicle as a parting gift if I was not going to continue.
How did you know it was Malami?
He sent people to my house, a team from Ministry of Justice to come and take my...
These are your words against him. You've said so many things. So.
And also till today, all my things are left in my office. My personal belongings, you know, because I had an office in Asokoro, you know. They went there, removed all those things, my pictures, credentials, everything, taken away till today. I wrote to Malami, my lawyer, Barrister Efa Oka, is my in-law, he has his practice in Abuja. He wrote to Malami in, I think that was 2022, because they were preparing to leave office, that give Obla his properties, personal belongings. Malami didn't reply. And he also wrote to the current Attorney General that they should return my personal effects. They have not returned those things to me.
On a final note, how would you assess the Tinubu government in the last 1 year?
Well, let me mention one thing. You know, the I wanted to mention that law. That, I mean, you need to have that law in UK, which I was using. I want to demonstrate to you how patriotic I was. I went out of my way, you know, to do the right thing. So, on the unexplained wealth regulation, I was investigating a lot of people, Nigerians, including even the Kuremadu. That is how I got into collusion cause with the National Assembly. They said they were going to investigate me You know, they were the ones that started this, so we were going to investigate my educational qualifications because they didn't say anything. They didn't say any act of corruption. They now set up a panel to how can a National Assembly investigate my educational qualifications? When I was doing my work, they set up a panel because they were, at that time, Kuremadu was Deputy Senate President. I was investigating a lot of senators under the Unexplained Acts Regulation. I was working with the National Crime Agency of UK. On my own, I took the initiative. And all those letters I sent to National Crime Commission to investigate these politically exposed people who had properties or who have properties in UK. I used to write all those memos to the Attorney General. I have them. I have all those documents. I was writing to him to say, look, this is what I'm doing. I have written, you know, so and so person against so and so person to the National Crime Commission of UK. I was doing that.
But no headway.
No headway.
The National Assembly, the executive.
Oh, as soon as I left office,
was fighting you.
The president ordered Malami to take over those cases. But those cases have died a natural death, including even badges or crude oil and crude oil badges vessels that were seized from oil bunkers by the Navy.
And they were returned back to
the Navy.
The
Chief of Staff wrote to me with, you know, I can have the document. He wrote to me that this is what we have recovered from oil thieves. So I did a memo to Malami. Say, look, Attorney General, this is what I got from the Chief of Naval Staff. Have you heard about that? Those things were worth billions of dollars. I have them. If you finish the interview, I can give you the document from the Nigerian Navy. If you want, I can send it to you now.
Please.
Yes.
So, I mean, and all of those, at the end of the day, nothing came out of it.
Well, so they should tell us. So
let's wrap this up. How would you assess the Tinubu government in the last 1 year?
Well,
you're still a member, a chieftain of the APC.
I am. I like APC. I'm one of the founders, you know, and I think APC has a bit derailed ideologically because now it's a free for all. We wanted an ideological party. We didn't want politicians jumping from one political party to the other. So we wanted people who are progressives or center of the left. Because in every political system, you must have an ideological party. You don't just jump into a party. You must have a reason why you want to belong to a certain party.
So this is not a party you co-formed?
No, this is not. The party has changed. Look, I can tell you that if I go to the National Secretariat of APC today, I don't know any of them. Any member of the National Executive Committee. Even my own side of the party, CPC, there is nobody from CPC today in the National Working Committee or National Executive Committee.
So this party is alien to what was formed in 2013,
exactly.
2014.
So let us return to, you know, the vision of the founding fathers. Let us not just form a political party for the sake of acquiring political power. So you were asking about the government. Well, I think taking into account where we were coming from, the government inherited a lot of challenges. One about petroleum subsidy, which I think was a fraud. So people were collecting money from Nigeria, lot of money under the guise of petroleum subsidy, and the subsidy was not there. It was a gimmick. It was phantom. So the president removed subsidy, and it has brought us a lot of problem. We need these reforms. These reforms that they are trying to do is necessary. So we have to swallow the bitter pills. No country has passed through, has come out successfully without embarking on comprehensive and drastic reforms, whether political or economic. So taking into account, I think 1 year is too little to evaluate and assess.
But do you think that this government is on the right track?
Well, I still believe that this government is on the right track. Maybe by the third year, then, if you don't see anything like some flashes of economic prosperity or recovery, then we'll begin to doubt the government. But now it is too early to evaluate. Let us allow the reforms to mature.
All right. Chief Okoi Obono-Obla, a former chairman of the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for the Recovery of Public Property under the Buhari government. Thank you so much indeed. It's a pleasure talking to us on this and bearing your mind on some of these issues. Yes, I feel that your heart is
because I need to tell Nigerians the truth. Aside from all the allegations they made against me, I'm a very poor person. You can go and see the car I have. It's my wife's car. I don't have a car. I live in a rented apartment in Abuja. So all the things they were saying, do you think that if I stole money, or if I have plenty of money, as they want us to believe, I will not buy a property in Abuja to live? Or even have a big car like most of the big men. Go and see the car I'm using. But it's okay. In Nigeria, we don't think that they are honest people. But they are honest people in Nigeria who have not been given the opportunity. I think I'm an honest man. My brothers were not talking to me when I finished that job. They said I didn't empower them. So that is why the problem of corruption is multidimensional. Family members, fighting me because they believe I didn't acquire wealth to help them, to give them. Or your friends not talking to you. Oh, you had opportunity. Mr. Obla, you think you will clean up Nigeria? You think you own Nigeria? So all those kind of statements, because I did something I believe was in the best interest of Nigeria.
Thank you so much indeed for talking to us. We really appreciate it. And that has been our conversation today with Chief Okoi Obono-Obla. Oh, well, I thought that you probably have some insight into what happened. Obviously, there are so many more in this country that we need to learn about to move this country forward. But in all of this, all of us have a role to play, isn't it? As citizens, wherever capacity that you have. And I wish our nation the very best. And that's our podcast today, everyone. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm Sean Wakimale. I'll see you some other time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Mike On Podcast with Seun Okimbaloi. Mike On Podcast for the independent mind.